sure I don't need to start taking you through the 4 modules of IELTS tests. You already have an idea. There are 4 parts. So, um, on Wednesday, we were able to complete listening, right? And in the listening, we also had important keys. So today, let's look at reading test. Reading test is the aspect of the IELTS test that assesses or evaluates your ability to pay attention to details. All right, so you are given long passages to read or extracts or guided compositions, and you are expected to read in between lines, get the information, and provide answers from what you've read. In reading tests, IELTS examiners consider it to be the easiest part of IELTS test. They see reading as the easiest, and their reason is very simple. Unlike in listening tests, where you get to listen to an audio and read along and write at the same time, they feel you are multitasking. You read, you listen, you write. And then, since we are not native speakers of English, they also feel that the listening test is a flowing stream. Anyone that flows past you is gone forever. So if you miss an answer, it's gone. It's never played twice. So the marking scheme for listening test is a little lenient. But in reading tests, they feel that when you are asked to begin to read, that if you are a fast reader, that you should be able to read as many times as possible to locate your answers. And they also say that your answers are right there staring at you in the face. So it's nothing difficult for you to retrieve answers. That's the way they perceive that. So because of it, the marking scheme for reading is very high. You really need to score pretty high to get a good band score. And I consider reading scheme to be more like a typical politician who, when they are falling, they pull down other members that are also in line with their practice. So reading test, if you don't perform very well, it will pull down your overall band score. So let's take, for instance, when you take on a listening test and you are able to score about 30 over 40, this 30 may be giving you band score 7.0. But in reading test, if you score 30 over 40, this will be giving you about 6.0. Right? So it's something you really want to do with a high level of understanding. And then, since the reading test has 3 different passages alongside with other extracts, the concept of those passages tend to cover different topics in reading tests. So there are different ways of solving reading tests. One, some persons are good at scanning. They don't tend to read the entire passage to get the answers. They just look at the question, they look at the keywords in the question, then they scan through the passage to get the answers. It works for certain persons, but it may never work for everyone, right? Some persons need to skim to understand. With that, they'll be able to decipher answers. Then, another method of solving reading tests is treating the different topics. You know, reading test covers different topics. So if you are able to understand the different topics, it is possible for you to treat your reading test following topics. In other words, you don't necessarily need to answer your questions from 1 to 40. No. You can begin your reading test from maybe 16 to 20 first. Then second, you find another topic covering like 26 to 30. Then you go back to number 1 to 10. You can take on your reading test that way. Because 1, you are sure of the accuracies of your answers. 2, your time management is very high since you already know the topics. All right? Now, by standard practice, your reading test, having 3 different sections, also has time allocations. So the first section, you are expected to cover it within 17 minutes. The second section, you are expected to cover it within 20 minutes. Then the last section, you should work out your answers within 23 minutes. Of course, the first passage, the level of difficulty is quite minimal. Then it increases slightly when you go to the second section. Then the Oga Patapata of all of them is in the third section. So you need to work hard. Now, if you are asked, maybe a questionnaire or survey is going on, and you are approached to give your own opinion as regards how or what you feel should be the best approach in solving reading questions. Should you start with the simple part, or should you begin with the most difficult part? Which is better? The easiest? Why? Because of time. So what will you begin with? The simple. So the same thing?
I'll begin with the hard one.
Hard one? Why would you take the hard shot first?
In my opinion, because I feel going with the hard one, since the particular test requires high score, so I'll try and see if I can solve the hard one. Easy one is something like that.
Thank you. Thank you. So now, based on your thoughts or choices, you know, by default, success becomes more interesting when you are going smoothly from the beginning, right? When you begin with a particular practical or exercise and you are experiencing lots of failure, there is tendency that you might give up, right? Secondly, in IELTS, reading to be precise, each question carries a equal mark, right? So logically, you might want to scoop in more points from the easier section, because when you go for the difficult part, you might get stuck. And if you say we die here, your time, you get you exactly. Yes. Now, when you go for the difficult part first and you get stuck at some point, one, pressure comes in, tension increases, and then more time is spent. And when you go to the easier one that is supposed to give you more soft landing, you are now using a lot of time, you are rushing. And what happens? The chances of getting a lot of wrong answers are there. So please, it is safer to scoop in more marks from the simpler sections. And when you're doing that, one, your time management is higher. You might even get your answers earlier before the time allotted for it. And you have more time for the difficult section, right? Okay, so let's go in. For reading tests, you are strongly advised to consider bringing in these important keys, which we call the 3 T's. Right? Having taken the listening test, you already know what the 3 T's mean. Now, for Doc here, we don't have, maybe you might not know what the 3 T's mean, right? So let's break down the 3 T's. So the 3 T's, we have the first one, which is trick, meaning the bracket trick. The second one is the tips, and the last is the techniques. So let's look at the trick. In listening tests, please just pay attention. I'm going to ask them a couple of questions. In listening tests, when or under what section do we begin to apply the bracket trick in listening tests? Not reading now, in listening tests. Under what category of instruction do we begin to apply the bracket trick? Under what section of instruction, or what category of instructions? No. Not under the sections of the listening tests. No. Okay. Under what category of instruction?
Okay. For instance, when maybe the answers you're not sure of, maybe if you ask S or not.
What category of instruction is that?
Okay. When they ask you to write no more than one word.
Thank you. Do you understand this? That's the category of instruction. When instruction says no more than one word and or a number, right? So it means do not write beyond one word. So, second question. Now, since you've understood the category of instruction that we begin to apply the bracket trick in the listening test, what does the bracket trick tend to make provisions for under one word section? What does it make provision for when you are applying that bracket trick to your answer?
It means it's either your answer, the main answer. If it's right, fine. Then you have another option, that is a bracket. As
Can you rephrase the question?
as an alternative. So the both might be correct,
Yes.
or any of them might also be correct.
Thank you. This is the general essence of the bracket trick, but it's not the specific answer to my question. My question was, when you are applying the bracket trick around your one-word answers, what are you projecting for? What are you making provisions for to the examiner? Options of what?
Options of possible options of the correct answer. So there's a word I'm
You know, when men are running business and other things, so many things juggle. Now, what we try to make provisions for is whether or not the answer should be in singular or plural. Yes. Do you understand this? You want, because the pronunciation may not be quite crystal clear to you, so you want to play safe. So you're putting your S in bracket and leaving the singular version of the word open. So when the examiner is marking a script, if what they have configured to be the right answer to that question is the singular form, you're good to go. If they want it to be in plural, your S covers, you're good to go.
The option is correct.
Option is correct, but what's the option for? All right, so please, do we understand this? Now, that's for listening test because you determine what you have heard. But in reading tests, the answer, if it's to be a one-word answer, is already fixed in the sentence or passage where you are extracting your answer from, right? So we don't apply the bracket trick under one-word section. Please, let's understand this. In listening, you do. Very key, right? But in reading, please don't apply it. The reason is this. If you find your word as the correct answer from a sentence, of course, when you're reading, your passage is composed in paragraphs, right? And every paragraph is made of sentences, and every sentence has what? Words, right? Now, when you read through a paragraph or a passage and you locate your answer, if your answer says no more than one word and you find that particular word from the sentence, that word is in a perfect form.
Because the answer is there, you're saying
It's perfect.
If it has S, you see it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Do you understand?
Yes.
So you don't need to try to import S from anywhere.
Yes. Because it's there already.
Well, you know, there's something they said. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's something they said that when you are looking for the answer, like the answer should fit the statement.
Perfect.
Like if it is time, you like the time when the gold miners or the times, like it should fit. It should
Exactly. That's the same way it appears in the. Don't paraphrase your answer. Don't paraphrase it. Copy and paste. That's what you have to do.
What
Right?
if the answer doesn't match?
No, it has to match. If it doesn't match, it's not the right answer.
I've seen in one of those reading texts, there's one of them, the answers that was called, and it's not actually
Passage. They're talking of listening test. That should be listening test.
Reading.
The one that was projected here.
No. Reading.
Reading.
There's one. Yes, I think I'm trying to remember the. When I saw one, the question was not there, so we had to. I don't know. Or maybe I didn't
Yes.
see it.
No, it's not possible in IELTS.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they will. But the paraphrase does not affect your answer. The paraphrase comes from where the answer is to be located. They tend to rephrase how it's structured in the original passage. But whatever your answer is supposed to be should not be paraphrased, but be exported from the passage and fixed into where it's supposed to be.
I mean, all the answers are really
Sacrosanct. Exactly the way it is. Exactly.
Even though if you are wrong, if you don't find the answer, you're not getting it.
Yes, you are not. And like he asked, when you find the right word, no matter how it's been paraphrased, no matter how the question is being paraphrased, when you find the right word, it will still pass the same message as in the original question. Please, do you understand this? Okay, so let's begin. So in the reading test, we do not apply the bracket trick under a section that says no more than one word. That's why the trick is beginning with 2 words. Do you understand it? I think you now have an idea of what bracket trick means, right? So now, but you need to understand the interpretation of instruction, because that is the first step towards your success or failure. If instruction says no more than 1 word, if you write 2 words and apply the bracket on your own, the bracket does not make any word invisible. Rather, it makes it optional. So if you go beyond the provisions of the instructions, you have failed automatically. Please, do you understand? So if instruction says no more than 1 word and or a number, the interpretation is that your answer can be a 1-word answer. It can be 1 word and a number. It can be just a number without a word when it says no more than 1 word. These are the options you have as answers. Now, here it says no more than 2 words and or a number. What does it mean? Don't exceed 2 words. However, it can fall between 1 word and or a number, 2 words. It can be 2 words and a number. Then it can also be just a number without a word. Please, do you understand this?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So in sections of reading, like section 1, first passage, the questions that comes along the passages, do they ask those questions based on the paragraphs? For example, question 1, is it possible that they will throw that question from the first
Paragraph 1.
or the last paragraph? Because I usually do that scanning. Right? I discovered that in one of these reading tests, I tried scanning for one question and I didn't see the paragraph that I thought was.
Okay, just a very quick expo before we continue. In reading, there are certain topics that the answers are in the descending order. There are certain topics that the answers are randomly placed. So 1, sentence completion, the answers are in the chronological order. 2, true, false, not given, 95% of the answers are in the descending order, right? 3, summary answers, descending order. Do you understand? Then so many other topics, you need to look for them. They may be randomly placed, right? Okay, so let's begin. No more than 2 words and or a number. Here is the true interpretation of how your answer should come. What you should limit your answers to. You can have a 1-word answer, you can have 2 words, you can have just a number, and don't exceed 2 words. That's the emphasis. So how do we apply the bracket trick? The bracket trick simply means the practice of putting in brackets a part of your answer that you're not very sure if it should be there, but it has to conform with the instruction. The practice of putting in bracket a part of your answer that you're not so sure if it should be there. So for instance, we talked about 1 word. So if you hear a tricky word such as next, you can't 100% ascertain that the next is a singular or plural word. It may be plural, it may be singular. So when you write that next this way, you can put your S in bracket. So by this, if the examiners want it to be in a singular form without this S being a part of it, the bracket makes it optional, so you are good to go. If the examiner wants nests with the S, you're also good to go. That's the bracket trick. Okay? Now, for 2 words answers, when you read your passage or the sentence and you locate your 2-word answer, if you get that 2-word, perhaps let's say brown stairs. Now, brown stairs is a 2-word answer, so it's in consonance with this instruction. But then There is no compulsion, or there is nothing to ascertain that you must have two words compulsorily. So it could be one word, it could be two words. So to play safe, because if you write two words this way as it is without any brackets, and unfortunately the examiners want just one word, this answer is incorrect, even though it's in line with this instruction. Please, do you understand this? So there is a way to play safe so that it aligns with the instruction and still makes it flexible for you to be on a safer side. So you need to identify what is the main idea in these two words. Is it brown or is it stairs? So here, I would like to identify the role of each of the words right here. Brown is an adjective and stairs is a noun. The brown is describing the color of the stairs, right? So in this situation, the major idea here remains this guy. So when I'm writing my answer, I'll make the brown to be in bracket. So my stairs yes. No. Anywhere. Even in the middle, if you have three words, it could be the middle words you put in bracket. So you need to identify.
Sorry, I'm confused. Now, when we started the class, you said reading text, the question always comes from the answers are always the same. So if we're having the answers copy and paste, why do we need to specify these different answers using the bracket trick?
All right, because instruction says no more than two words. So no more than two words does not mean you are compelled to write two words. It doesn't mean that. Because if you do that, 60% of those answers will be incorrect. Because some of them, some questions may require only one word. Yes. Not necessarily two words, even though instruction. Why? So to play safe, these two words are still for that question you are treating. Let's assume you're treating question 11, right? You found brown stairs as best answer to question 11. But you want to play safe because saying two words does not compel you to have two words blank. So you want to play safe. Being in bracket does not affect you in any way. Let's understand that first. So what it does is it places you safe. If examiner wants the brown and stairs to be the compulsory answer, you are good. If the examiner wants only stairs without the brown, this brown being in bracket is optional, so they ignore it and mark only your stairs. But if they want only stairs and maybe what you wrote on your answer booklet is brown stairs, you are incorrect. Please, do you understand this?
But the brown cannot be adopted from outside. It has to still be inside.
And not just being inside, it has to be together with stairs. It's not like you pick from here and pick to no.
Does this also apply to no more than one word? Like if you see these brown stairs and let's say you're not sure, maybe the answer is brown, but you want to add stairs to it. Can you still add stairs and brackets?
For no more than one word? Okay, nice. If I do this now, for no more than one word, and I ask you, how many words do I have on the board? And what does the instruction say?
Okay, what of no more than okay, fine. So you're just trying to see, sorry, if I get what you're saying, that this bracket kind of like protects us.
Places you safe.
In no more than two words.
And no more than three words. For reading test, don't apply it for one, because the one is already fixed and it's perfect.
I think only if you can only, for instance, the answer is maybe you have
Stairs.
then the S. Just one letter, alphabet.
For one word, right?
One word, yes.
But if it is for two, if it says one word and you bring
stairs. But if we are using stairs now and we are now what's called bracket S, I don't think it will be like that in the passage, because the passage will carry the word
S. You know, I think it's explaining. Yes,
Okay.
not specifically for reading. But for I've established that in reading tests we don't apply for one word. So if you are treating one word, please, the bracket trick does not make a word invisible. The word will still count. Thank you. All right. So that's how to apply the bracket trick when you are treating a section that says no more than one word, no more than two words, and or a number. Now let's look at no more than 3 words and or a number. So can you please interpret the instruction? No more than 3 words and or a number. What does it mean?
That means you should not put more than 3 words and or
A number. In other words, your answer can be 1 word,
1 word, yes.
1 word and a number, 2 words, 2 words and a number, then 3 words. Nice. That's what it means. And it can also be just a number without a word. So with this, you won't bog your head with words everywhere. You have understood 3 words. However, your answer can still be just. All right. So how do we apply the bracket trick? Perhaps you find an urgent call. An urgent call is a 3-word answer. So I want to factor in, or I want to consider ways to play safe so that I would respect these possibilities, right? So what do I do? What's the major action here? Call. So this guy is just an article. What is this guy talking about? An single urgent call, right? Then this guy is describing the level of, yes, it describes the level of the action, right? So it's more like an adjective. Then this is the main verb here. Do you understand? So the main idea here is your article can be in bracket, the describer can be in bracket, then the major answer is to be left open.
This is beautiful. That test we had here in class, I feel most of the questions because of this. Yes. You remember?
Yes.
Because most of them say the answer is I'll say,
This, maybe you added this that is not supposed to be.
Exactly.
So when you find such answer, ensure that you have established the stipulated number of words your answer should not go beyond, right? Then when you find your answer, put the supporting words in individual brackets. Don't do this. If you do this automatically, there's no word here. No single word is here, right? So it has to be in their separate
But in
brackets.
this situation, when you do that, and the correct answer is call, are you wrong?
You are good to go. But if you do this now, and the correct answer is urgent call, you don't have anything urgent here. So you only have call, so your answer is incorrect. But when you have these provisions, right? If the examiner wants only call, the bracket makes these guys optional, so they are ignored and you are good to go. If they want urgent call, they ignore an and pick urgent. If they want an urgent call, everything is cleared. So that's just the bracket trick. But please apply the bracket trick following strictly what the instruction says.
Now,
Excuse me.
so now, in terms of answering 3 words and the number now, what I just see, you identify the article,
The roles.
and verb. Why must we do this in answering like filling the blank question also?
All right. Now, when you go to the question would establish a particular action that they want, right? But in the passage, that action didn't just stand alone. There are supporting describers, right? Descriptive words and emphatic words. So, and is laying emphasis to just a single urgent call, right? The urgent is describing the level or form of the action, right? Then the call is the major thing that was performed. So if you look at the question would establish how your answer should come. So you should be able to determine which is the priority here. That's just what you should do. Okay, so please, I don't know if you have any question on how to apply the bracketry. Is it clear? Let's go to tips. All right. So let's look at tips in reading tests. The first tip right here says, always read the instruction for each section carefully before attempting any question. Always read the instruction for each section carefully before attempting any section. Now let's understand, why is this necessary? Why is it important? To read your instruction will help you to establish how many words your answer should come. Right? Whether it should be 1 word or 2 words or 3 words. Reading instruction will also help you to know if your answer should come in alphabets, A, B, C, and all that. Or if your answer should come in the Roman numerals and all that. Instruction will also help you to determine if you are required to choose any 2 or any 3 correct letters. We find things like this, right? And I also want to emphasize on something. Whenever you are taking on any IELTS test, an instruction says choose any 2 or any 3 correct letters from the list of options numbered or labeled A to E or G or whatever it is. What this means is, in no particular order. If instruction says choose any, it means your answer can come in no particular order. So your first answer can be D, second answer can be A, last answer can be G. But if instruction says choose 2 letters from 2 letters, it has to follow order. Whether you're treating reading or listening tests, please, wherever you see this instruction, that's how you should interpret it. All right? Now let's continue. Reading instruction will also help you to understand if you can find 2 answers from 1 paragraph. I'm sure that happens. For that to play out, always check the instruction section if you'd find something like this. You may use any letter more than once. Please, look out for this guy. If it appears, it means there is 90% possibilities that a paragraph or more will solve 2 different questions. But the good thing is, the paragraph that will solve more than 1 question does not cover 2 questions that are following each other, maybe questions 1 and 2. It doesn't cover like this. Your question 1 can come from a particular paragraph, maybe C, and question 4 can be C. Please, do you understand this? Instruction will also help you to understand the topic you are covering. Topic. So you would notice or observe or identify the topic that that particular section of the reading test is actually covering. So if you are able to identify the topic, it will help you to determine if you should solve it immediately or come back to it. So in most cases, when you read instruction and you see something like statement, maybe statement is repeated twice, it's often covering identifying information or locating information. We'll take things one step at a go. I'm going to do some slides. I'm going to project extracts so that you understand how to find. It may not be today anyway. So please, it is important for you to read your instructions so it will help you. I always say this, that the biggest advice by my teachers in secondary school that I will never forget is read the instruction before you start any test or exam. So that's about the tips. The tip here, please, it's very important. Tip number 2, this simply means that your reading should follow the approach of reading your questions first. Cues. The cues right there means questions. So you need to read your questions first. Why do you need to read questions? So you know what you're reading for when you go to the passage. Or else, you would, if you start by reading the passage, by the time you're done reading, you go to the question. To get the answer, you need to start reading all over. And you don't have such time in reading. In fact, you see reading tests in IELTS, the time runs faster than normal. Before you know Jack, you have 20 minutes more. And once examiners announce that, the kind of code that hugs one, you get confused, honestly. So passage, or you read a question and you go to the passage to find such word, you will scan and scan and scan, you won't see. But it's right there. They just paraphrased it. Right? So when you read questions first and identify the keywords in them, as you begin to read a passage, your mind will always prick you to the fact that I saw something that relates to this. When you locate that on while reading the passage, underline the whole of that part that has the information that relates to these keywords in the question. Underline them. So when you keep reading a passage and you're underlining information that you feel relates to the keywords in the questions, keep reading and keep underlining, keep reading. If you're doing the paper-based test, use your pencil or pen. There is no additional mark for a neat question paper returned. No additional mark will be given to you if your question paper is returned very neat. So you need to use it, right? Do a lot of underlining. Do a lot of highlighting. Do a lot of labeling of passages based on whatever you feel it's talking about to help you quickly get your answers, all right? If you're doing the computer-based test, the function is still there. You can highlight. And in IELTS, the function is nice, so nice that when you highlight, you can still make a note on the highlight. All right, so that's the way you should go. Although there is a particular topic that is usually repeated in reading questions that do not respect or that does not respect this rule, right? But 90% of the topics you're going to cover in your reading test, please, this is the best template you should go. Unless you have mastered the skill of scanning to get answers. There are people who are very good at that. They just look at the question, they see the keywords, they locate it, and that's the correct answer, right? So please, these are the tips you want to look at when you are treating your reading test. All right, let's go to the last T here, which is techniques. Okay, so let's look at these techniques. For reading tests, we're going to look at these 6 techniques. The first one there is the paraphrase. Of course, we already know how paraphrasing goes. But let me ask, what do you think paraphrasing means? Okay.
Paraphrasing simply means the structuring of a sentence to mean the same thing but in different words.
Thank you. Thank you. So, paraphrasing, this is the foundation of IELTS. Paraphrasing. No matter what you do, or no matter how well you prepare for IELTS, if you are not good with paraphrasing, you will struggle to do well in IELTS because your listening test, audio will paraphrase everything. Your reading test, you read a question, you can't find the word in the passage. You feel the answer is not there. The guy is there very well, looking at you, paraphrasing. During your speaking test, you paraphrase. When you're writing, you must also paraphrase. So please, you need to work on this. So paraphrasing is a writing technique or is a technique of restating an information using synonyms or phrases that still mean the same thing as in the original idea. How does paraphrasing play out in reading test? Paraphrasing can move from word to figures. It could move from figures to words. When you read a passage and the passage talks about something that has existed for 100 years, and the question wanting to ask you about that section will not use the figure 100 years. It will talk about a century. That's the paraphrase. Something, a train would arrive in the next 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Question, half an hour. Right? So paraphrasing can play out from words to figure, from figure to word, sometimes from words or figures to fractions or percentage, where you see something like a quarter, and paraphrasing will change a quarter, then quarter to 1/4. 1/4, that's a quarter, right? Sometimes in percentage, you tell you a quarter, and the question will now say 25%. So you're checking. There's nothing percent. There's nothing like percent here. A quarter.
Can I add something to
Yes,
what
sir.
you just said? So there was one of the listening tests we did last week, and I think it was last week, and I discovered that the answer came, first answer came with the first
Word.
statement, and it was paraphrased. So, and you know, you told us that we should always listen. The answer can come immediately.
Immediately.
That was why I got that answer.
Some people will just want to relax that
Honestly,
they just want to gist
first
more.
statement was the answer. I was surprised that
They just want to gist more. You just be there. That gist you're waiting for is already giving you answer. So before you know it, that is the end of your listening test section. You will now transfer your answer. I have nothing to transfer. Okay.
written before.
You didn't understand what was going on until when you heard that is the end of your session one. They left you and they were like, oh, you can now face them. Okay, so yes, that's paraphrasing in IELTS. It happens everywhere. You just have to have the knowledge. So when you read your questions, you will identify the keywords. The reason for that basically is one, know what you're reading for. Two, the keywords in the questions will definitely be paraphrased in the passage. So let's go to skimming. What is skimming? Skimming is a reading technique of quickly going through an information at very fast pace, but with the aims of completing your reading within time and having a grasp of what has been read. Skimming. A fast reading technique with the aims of completing your reading and having an idea of what has been read. This is what you need if you want to complete your reading test. Don't read it like the Nigerian newspaper. The news is always very interesting with lots of promises. So, but if you want to pass your IELTS, the reading test specifically, you need to be able to skim. Don't try to read the complete letters in this word before you give it the name instruction. No. When you glance at it, you should figure out that this is instruction.
That brings me to this question. How many minutes or seconds do I need to take in order to maximize my time at question?
Per question?
Yes.
No No expert will tell you how. Let me explain. The success of reading test depends on your habit as a person. Your habit. Let me explain what that means. Before now, for instance, the training you're taking shouldn't be the fulcrum of your foundation for English, right? So you ought to have built that foundation. Your spellings, your reading speed, your sentence construction, your creative writing, and the likes. That's first. Secondly, are you in a habit of reading by default before now? If yes, you are, then that answer will come in. But if you've not been reading, you are pursuing money straight based on the country's economy, right? And reading is not your thing. At this point, it's going to be a very big hassle for you to read. Then secondly, let's assume your communication with people. What kind of English you use? Street, vernacular, or combo, right? So if you do street, remember when you go for the normal speaking test, you might not know when you blow the street once more. You drop the 10. If you do vernacular, you might not know when you mix, you just mix the 10, right? But if you do the normal polished English, it's just very easy for you to flow when you're speaking, right? So all of these put together, if you don't write, you don't write normal. What you do is, how much did you make? 400,000. Did you pay it? All right, so no problem. You are good. When you are given a question to write, you won't know what to interpret, right? So with that, your reading speed is what determines how much time you can spend, right? So for skimming, you just need to understand that don't try to read the entire individual. Don't try to. YouTube will tell me that I have copyright in my video because of that. I'll cut it here. Okay, so don't try to read the entire letter before you decipher the word, right? Try to do a very quick scan when you are skimming so you would determine. And when you read such thing, if it doesn't make sense, you realize that that's not the right word. You go back, right? So that's how it works. So reading very fast without trying to take your time to understand the whole gist, no. But reading to have an idea of what it's talking about and at the same time completing the reading within the time frame you're supposed to. That's skimming. Now, what makes skimming a very vital reading technique? Underlining must always play out. Please, because you're not reading to get the whole gist, you need something that will help to prompt you, to keep you afloat so that you understand what you have read prior before. So, because you read the questions and you got some keywords in the questions, when you skim and locate certain information that relates to those keywords, please, you need to underline. So as you're reading your passage, underline major areas that refer to the key questions or keywords in the questions. So those things you're underlining are your potential answers. Please, you understand this? So underlining is a reading technique of ruling under words, phrases, sentences that you find to be potential answers to questions. So what do we underline? That's the big question. What do we underline? It's not everything you underline, else your book will be full of Thank you. So let's look at the key things to underline. Nouns. Nouns, now name of persons, name of places, name of researchers, name of inventors, name of what is being innovated, especially that relates to the issue that you're reading about. Right? So you're underlining nouns. You underline figure, anything that has to do with quantity. Quantity, figure. Underline period or duration or time frame. Anything that has to do with time frame, figure, period. Please underline it. So it could be century, it could be 1952, it could be Whatever it is, underline it. It is a potential answer. Underline ideologies. If a person, a particular a team of researchers or group of researchers who invented one or two things, there will be different ideologies, their thoughts about whatever they've invented. Those thoughts are potential answers. Underline them. Underline what they have invented, their inventions or creations. They are potential answers. Underline problems, challenges identified in the passage. They are also potential answers. Underline how solutions are to be brought in or how problems are solved. Underline solutions to problems or how problems are solved. Then lastly, underline cited examples. Cited examples. Now, in the case of examples, when you are reading a passage and a particular word is cited as an example, and after citing it, they now begin to buttress this example. Buttress it, blah, 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 and it ends. Then they now begin to cite additional examples. In IELTS, in most cases, this is the example that you should give as an answer when you are requested to cite an example. When you are reading a paragraph and a particular example is cited or mentioned, and after mentioning this example, they now begin to talk a little bit about it. Immediately after it, they now list other examples. In IELTS, this is often a potential answer, not these ones. Don't worry, when we get into practical, you might see something like that. Another scenario is in IELTS, when you're reading a paragraph or when you're reading a passage, if you see two examples following each other but separated by the word and, in IELTS, this is the correct answer you have to give if the question requires example. In IELTS. In IELTS, when two examples are cited, but they are separated by the word and, right? If the question or if a question is asking for an example of something that relates to these guys, this is the better answer to choose. Yes.
So if they give you a question that carries the object and,
yes,
the answer always
comes at the one that comes after. But if it appears in this format, it is this first one, right? Okay, so let's go to scanning. What is scanning? Scanning is a reading technique of quickly spotlighting or searching through an information for the purpose of locating where an answer is situated. Scanning is a reading technique of spotlighting or searching through an information with the aim of locating where an answer is situated. In scanning, you don't read to understand. You're only reading to, I saw it somewhere, that's scanning, right? So what do you scan? Those underlined areas. What do you scan? You scan the underlined areas for your answers.
sorry, so can you help us with the process? Sorry, I'm bringing back. So the first thing you do see in passage is you read the questions first.
After you've understood the instruction. So go through the questions first.
Understand it.
No, don't understand the question.
Just go through them.
Just go through the question, and each question you're reading, read once only, please. Read questions just once. If you read more than once, the brain by default will pick interest in that question. So it subconsciously crams that question. So when you go to the passage to read, you are reading basically for that one you have crammed. So anything you are coming back to solve, you need to go back to read.
The question, are you reading all the questions or just read number one and go back?
No. The first passage may come with about 5, 6, or 7 questions. Read those 7 questions, one each. Now, what are you reading for? Not to understand each question, but to look out for keywords in each question. It is the keywords you are searching for when you go to read a passage. And the keywords will not appear in the default templates as used in a passage, in the question. It will be paraphrased. So because you have read it and highlighted it, the brain will consider that word to be important to you. So once it appears anywhere, whether in a paraphrased way in a paragraph or passage, the brain would prick your mind that this one relates to that. And when you realize that, I said underline that area.
So you don't just go straight on answer.
No. You want to do your question identification or keyword identification from questions, then go to read your passage and highlight all the potential answers. Then after that, you go back to the questions, but one question at a go. So when you read each question, it's now easier for you to scan, and what are you scanning? Those underlined areas to get your answers. Do you understand? Okay, so that's about scanning. So let's look at jotting, labeling, and making notes. Jotting, labeling, and making notes are reading techniques that help test takers to give tags, titles, caption, topic to paragraphs you have read based on what you understood from each. I'll take that again. Jotting, labeling, or making notes are reading techniques that help test takers to give tags, captions, titles, themes, topics to different paragraphs read based on your understanding of each. So let's assume you've just read paragraph A. Paragraph A will have a particular information it's trying to pass across. So in your own words, beside it, let's assume the whole of this is paragraph A. So always read the instruction for each section carefully before attempting. So this is talking about rule, right? Rule to be observed, right? So that's my label to this. And then I read another one. I feel, okay, this is talking about newest or modern means of transportation. I read another one. This is talking about how to join a club. When you are done reading them, this technique will quickly help you to answer questions on. Thank you. You already have the idea. To help you to match your headings. The reason is this: when you have already given headings without even reading the headings, when you go to the headings, you realize that, okay, this idea means the same as this, even though choice of words differs. So it's easier for you, right? If not, what you'll be doing for matching headings is you always going up and down, looking for. I said, for jotting, labeling, or making notes, I said there are reading techniques that help test takers to be able to give tags or titles or topics or themes or captions to different paragraphs they have read based on your understanding. So after reading each paragraph, in your own words, tag that particular paragraph what you feel it's trying to pass across. Because when you label all the paragraphs and go to the headings, which is a question, right? When you read each heading, you are supposed to match each heading to a particular paragraph. But because you have already labeled the paragraphs, you realize that this information, this heading, means the same thing as what you have labeled, although your choice of word is not what was used exactly. So it's easier for you. But if you don't label, what you do is after reading all the paragraphs, you read the heading. You need to start going through all the paragraphs again. If it is matching headings. A lot of test takers fail matching headings. It's not because it's difficult, but because they fall for distractors. In matching headings, you will find about 2 paragraphs expressing very similar information, right? But amongst those 2 paragraphs, one is a distractor. Now, how do you identify a distractor? Distractors or paragraphs that are distractors come with very direct information that you're already looking for, right? They give you very concise, very summarized information that you are in search of, right? But that's not the answer. Matching heading answers come from well-detailed paragraphs. That's where they are testing you to read and then give your analytical skills. They want you to analyze the detailed information to a little heading. Do you understand? But because we are in a haste, we are in an exam condition, we feel we don't have all the time to read this whole detail. So we quickly go to that one that is very summarized. Okay, let me give you examples. I want to talk about a disease, right? Or the passage is about a disease, and then the disease, the history about the disease is now broken into different paragraphs, right? Now, a paragraph want to tell you about the origin of the disease, the year it was discovered, how many people that were infected, right? And the symptoms, special features of that particular disease that the people manifested, right? Then another short paragraph, distractor, will tell you that the disease shows very similar symptom as cancer, a blot on the skin with some reddish spots, and this lasted between 2014. Is giving you year, which is very similar to the history that you've read. So because you are in an exam condition, you are seeing a year, you are seeing a symptom, you quickly rush it. So that's the distractor. The more detailed one is where your answer lies. So they want you to quickly analyze the paragraph, right? But if you apply this jotting, labeling, or making notes, they would help you to give your tags beforehand, so you don't easily fall for distractors. All right? All right, lastly, let's look at ruling or crossing out. Ruling or crossing out are your time management techniques. Ruling or crossing out are time management techniques that help you to reduce your areas of search for answers. Ruling or crossing out are your time management techniques that help you to reduce your areas of search for answers. Let me explain how this works. Okay, let's assume this is paragraph A, paragraph B, paragraph C, and paragraph D. You have read the 4 paragraphs, and you have questions that you have to answer. And then you read your question 1. Now, you've read this question 1. You come here to scan through paragraph A to get your answer. Perhaps you didn't find it here. You come to paragraph B. You found the answer. So maybe question 21, your answer is B, right? Now you read paragraph question 2. You come here and scan. If it's not here, you come here and scan. If it's not here, you come here and scan. Then you didn't find this, maybe you found it in D. Now, because you got an answer here for paragraph 21, when you are searching for this answer, you are not supposed to scan this guy again. The time spent scanning through this paragraph is a waste of precious time. Do you understand this? You have already gotten an answer from it. So what you're supposed to do is to apply the ruling or crossing out technique, which is the use of pencil to just strike out. So when you are scanning for the next answer, if you scan through this guy, you don't find your answer, skip this guy, because this indicator is here. to tell you that it's taken, right? The only thing that will make this guy valid, as in the possibilities of giving you another answer, is when you have that instruction. I don't know if you can still remember. Note before you may use an answer. If that instruction exists, there is possibility that a second answer can still come from here. But I said also that it doesn't follow each other, right? So for the purpose of time management, you want to go elsewhere. If you don't find it, then you can come back here. And then ruling or crossing out a particular paragraph does not cover the information it contains, right? It only gives you a message that this guy has solved the problem. So when I do this to paragraph B and I get my answer from paragraph D, I also apply the same. What am I doing? I now know that I have just A and C to search for my answer. So the more you do that, the more you reduce your areas of search, right? So this would help you to manage your time more effectively, right? Okay, so these are important keys you really want to apply in reading tests. They help you a whole lot, but you need to put them to practice to master the skills and also understand how they play out in reading tests. Okay, so please permit me. We'll continue on Monday by God's grace. We'll do more of practical explanations of. So you can go with a question and find time to go solve the question. But please time yourself. Time yourself, very important. You can reduce your time and see if you can work on it. 50 minutes as against 60, right? So that in an exam condition, 10 minutes you normalize.